All right, coaches, when it comes to teaching our movements, not only do we need to know what to teach and tell our athletes to do the movements correctly, but more importantly, we need to check to ensure they're actually doing it. When it comes to teaching a deadlift, we know that we want the hands outside of the legs and we want our feet somewhere between hip and shoulder width. But when we tell our athletes that, if we don't double check to make sure the hand width and stance is exactly where we want it to be, our athletes will probably default to messing this thing up, and that's going to lead to a fault that's going to be more challenging to fix. If we take a look at Sam, we notice that she's grabbed the bar right where the smooth and rough part meet, which is where most athletes default to grabbing the bar from my experience. We also see that her feet are closer to shoulder width than to hip width, and when she gets into her setup position, what we notice is there's a lot of interference between her arms and her legs. They're in the way with each other here from the front, and when we look from the side, you can see the back isn't bad, but it's not quite as flat as I want, and as she goes to lift, there's just not as much space for her to lift that I'd like to see. So what I'm gonna do as a coach is double check that her hands are where I want them to be, and most of the time where we want them to be is going to be a thumb's length away from that rough and smooth part where it meets. This works with most barbells, and then from there, I'm gonna bring her feet in just a hair, just like that, yep. It's gonna create a little bit more space for us, so that way when we're in that setup position, she can now push her knees out towards her arms. That creates a little bit more space there. If we look from the side, the back position and the angle of the spine and shoulder and hip relationship is better, and that way when she goes to lift, there's not as much interference from the legs and arms, and this is going to be a cleaner, better lift. So once again, when it comes to our points of performance and our setup positions, our stance and grip, not only do we need to tell our athletes the right thing, but we need to double check to make sure they're actually doing the right thing. This is especially important, once again, with the stance and grip, so make sure you guys are checking that out.